Welcome to another episode of Filmore TV. I'm your host, Phil Moreland. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the importance of your hips. Why are your hips so important? Why do we hear trainers constantly stress the importance of hip mobility, hip strength, being able to drop your hips in transition, being able to have good hips to be able to change directions? And why do we often hear doctors stress the importance of being mobile and being able to move and be functional over time? Now, when you think about your hips are aligned right in the center of your body. So the ability to transfer energy from the lower half of your body to the upper half and vice versa is directly predicated on the strength and mobility of your hips and the control that you have over your hips. Now, mobility. Why is mobility in your joints so important? You want to think of your joints like a door hinge. Imagine a door that hasn't been opened in 5-10 years. That's not going to be the easiest door to open. The hinge is going to be kind of rusty, it's going to be stiff, it's not going to be able to move and open as easily as you'd like it. Versus a door that's been open and closed all day, every day, that door is going to be smooth, that door is going to be easy to open and close. Your joints work the same exact way. Lack of using your joints and lack of using your joints properly can affect your joints in a very bad way and create stiffness, soreness, and just lack of strength in those joints. Now, the problem that I have with a lot of athletes will stress the importance of strength and bulking up and getting that size, but then they'll neglect the importance of being mobile and fluid and flexible at the same time. Now, when you work your strength without flexibility and mobility, they actually work against each other instead of working for each other like they should. When you think of the top Olympic lifters, the best Olympic lifters are the most flexible ones that's able to get deep in that squat, being able to move fluidly, all their joints move together fluidly to be able to lift the tons and tons of weight that they have to lift. It's the same thing for athletes and non-athletes. If you want to be able to be as functional as possible and perform at your top level, you want to be able to combine your strength and mobility together to make that powerful, explosive athlete that you can be. Now, when it comes to speed and power, which everyone wants, every athlete wants to be fast and powerful. They should, because it's a very important trait as an athlete. Now, when you think of your ligaments, think of your ligaments in your joints like a slingshot. Let's say I have a rock in a slingshot. The farther back I'm able to pull this slingshot, the more velocity and power that rock is going to shoot out with once I let it go. Your joints work the same exact way. Your hip flexors work the same exact way. The more mobility that you have in your hips, the more flexibility you have in your hips, the more range of motion you'll be able to create, which will in turn create a greater power output and a greater speed output as an athlete. As a non-athlete, you'll be a lot more functional. Your hips will be a lot more fluid, and your joints will be functional for years and years and years to come. Now, one more reason I've stressed the importance of hip strength and hip mobility is balance. Think of some of the top NFL players, the running backs, for instance. Some of the best running backs in the league are some of the ones that are able to get hit but still maintain that balance and control to stay up off the ground. A lot of that is predicated on how strong and flexible their hips are. You're able to bend more, you're able to balance more, you're able to control more weight because you have a lot of strength and flexibility in your hips. So as an athlete, whether you play tennis, basketball, football, lacrosse, baseball, golf, your hip flexibility and hip strength will be a vital aspect in your game, being able to take you from maybe that average athlete to elite athlete, and maybe elite athlete to super elite athlete. Greater hip flexibility will create a faster, more powerful athlete, and as a non-athlete, create a more functional, productive body that will be functional for years to come, all the way up until old age. Now, I'll give you 2 things to do to work on that actual hip flexibility, so you'll be able to, as an athlete, just create a more powerful athlete, and as a non-athlete, be more functional. So the first thing, we want to get rid of the habit of bending at the waist. Now, a lot of people have bad hip flexibility because they bend at the waist instead of squatting when they have to pick something up. So let's say I have to pick something up off the ground. A lot of people will bend here, which will create a lot of stress on your lower back and your spine. Your lower back and your spine were not created to handle a lot of weight. That's why they're weaker bones, weaker ligaments. But your hips, for instance, your hips are built with a lot of dense bone, a lot of dense ligaments, a lot of dense muscles, so you're able to use them more. So instead of picking something up by bending at the waist, you want to squat down and sit your hips back. So squat down, sit your hips back, and then when you come up, shoot your hips forward. It's the same thing when you're squatting. if you're lifting and you got a squat, you're doing back squat, you want to shoot your hips back and shoot them forward instead of trying to bend at the waist and use too much lower back. The second thing to help increase your hip flexibility, hip mobility, is S-stretch. Now, S-stretch was always one of my favorite exercises, one of my favorite stretches to do. We used to do it before every single football practice, and I know exactly why, because it helped me to become a more fluid athlete in turn. S-stretch. All right, we got to switch it up real quick. I ain't got a cameraman with me today, so I got to do this on my own. But with S-stretch, it is called S-stretch because you want your legs to end up in a sort of an S shape. So you look at my leg, my shin is facing perpendicular away from my body. It's right in front of my body, and my back leg is stretched back as far as it can go, but my knee is bent. So the first thing you want to do, you want to take your opposite shoulder to opposite knee. So I'm taking my left shoulder and going down to my right knee. I feel that right outside of my right hip. After that, second stretch, you want to take your nose to your toe. So when you do that, you're going to bend forward as much as you can. You're probably not going to be able to touch your toe. If you are, you're probably a yoga instructor. But you want to bend and reach your nose as far as you can towards your toe. Alright, that's it for this episode of Filmore TV. I hope I said at least one thing that you could take home that will create a better athlete or a better person in general. We're working very hard here at Filmore Athletics on trying to bring you guys more content, more training, more drills, more everything that you can take home, because we want to keep pushing our mission to educate and elevate the ambitious and hardworking people of the world. We know you out there, and we want to do this stuff for you guys. So please like this picture. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, follow us, check us out on our different platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We'll see you for the next episode of Filmore TV.